One way of learning how to code in Python or Pandas is to actually watch someone else do it. So I had this idea that maybe I could do a little bit of live coding, and if people who watch this video, perhaps they will learn something. I'm just going to try it. I've not done it yet. So here is what I did. I actually got hold of some data on world population from the World Bank. So I have maybe close to 50 or 60 years of annual population for about 300 countries, for all the countries in the world. And then I was going to do this for myself. I had a few questions. Okay, the first question that I want to answer is, which countries in the most recent years, let's say in the last 5 years, have had an explosive population growth? Okay, that's question number one. Second question I had was, which countries have had their population stay more or less flat, have population has not changed in a long period of time, let's say 20 or even 30 years. And the third question that I have is, which are those countries where their current population is less than their highest ever population? That means that they've seen a decline and it has not come back at all. Okay, so I was curious about all of these three. I'm going to go to Python and take a look at it.
Okay, before we can start any analysis, let's get our data ready. Okay, so let me first always start with importing pandas that I know is needed. We may need another modules also, but we can get them as needed. As soon as we did that, I want to read a CSV file which I downloaded from the World Bank site. I have kept it in my data folder. And it is called data pop wide for a reason that you will now see in 1 second. It's in a very what is called a wide format. Each column is a year itself is a column. That's not how we want it. We might have to do some reshaping of this, but at least we are able to read the one file correctly. So let's store it in a data frame, and let me see shape. And then again, if I look at this data, I see that I have two columns here. Okay, country name and country code. I don't know that I really want the country code, so let's go ahead and let me go ahead and drop it. It will save me some trouble later on. Drop country code, and when you're dropping a column, you have to say axis equal to 1. There, it's gone. And if it has to be permanent, you want to say in place equal to true in Pandas, so that now data frame does not have that column. See, it only has 60 columns, not 61. Okay, good. So we're getting somewhere. We have, again, I'm not very happy about the fact that each column is a year. For that, I will have to do something called melting. To melt a data frame is a concept that I first came across in the R community from Hadley, Wickham and others, when this whole idea of tidy data was being bandied about. It's a very, very good concept. And the idea here is that each row should have only one observation or one value, and the rest of the columns are simply identifiers for that column. So you can say ID variables is my country name, and let me see if this works. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. You see, now it has a lot more rows, but every row has only one value. Okay, I need to rename this. Let's go ahead and rename it. Let's rename some of the columns. And we want to take variable, and it's not the variable, but it's the year, and what Pandas is calling value is population. Okay, now I'm liking it. Those are exactly the three columns that I wanted. All of them are useful. Aruba in 1960 had this population. So let me save this to, let's copy this so that if somebody is watching later on, they know exactly how we did this. Let me save it and call it as this data frame. I will call as my melted data frame. Okay. So now melted.shape 15,500 rows, 3 columns. Perfect. So now we're actually ready to start answering the questions one by one. So let's bring all these questions down. Then let's try answering the first question now.
here is my idea for how I'm going to solve the first question, right? Which country has seen the highest population explosion? I looked at the data and I know that the last year that I have is 2018. Okay, so I have 2018 population. Let's say that I go back 5 years and get the 2013 population. So for every country, I'm only going to take these two rows, 2013 and 2018 populations. Okay, then I'm going to group by each country, and then based on these two, I'm going to calculate the percentage difference. Then I will sort by the percentage difference, highest to lowest. Maybe I'll sort it descending order, and then the top few will be those countries that have had the maximum. That's the idea for question number 1. Now let's go to Jupyter Notebook and try it.
Now finally, we are ready to try solving the first question. Which countries have had the highest percentage increase? Okay, there are multiple steps involved, I think, but let's see. We have our data frame and it has a useful column called year. Let's look at all its unique values. There you see d type is equal to object, so these are all strings. So for the last 5 years, I want to keep 2000. I'm going to say take the column, and if the string contains 2018, right, then it'll make it a true or false. So the last few rows of course contain 2018, but we want both 2013 or 2018. Okay, this is a regular expression, and if we do this, okay, it works. Let's make sure. Let's see how many true values are there. Some will tell you that. My idea is that if there are 260 countries, right, and 2 rows, so I expect this to be around 520. Yeah, it's 528. Okay, good. So this condition, let's store this as year condition. Okay, so I have a true false condition, and then I can actually take my melted data frame and I can cut it, meaning I'm only keeping these two years. Okay, good. Now that I have my small data frame with only 2 rows per country, let me group that by country name. Okay, we've not done anything yet, and then in column I'm interested in is called population. So this is a group by series object. It's just a series now. Basically, I'm interested in the population row, and I want to apply a function, but there is no function for percentage population increase or percentage change. So we have to write our own. Let's call that percentage change. Okay, but I have to write this function now. Okay, so we're going to write a definition. We have to define our own function. It's going to be called percentage change, and it is going to take a pandas series as the input. Let's see what happens if we simply even print whatever is coming in. Okay, well, let's just see what is going on here. So you can see that it's grouping it by country by country. It's taking Afghanistan and it's passing it the 2 rows, which it just prints it back. That's of course not what we want, but I wanted to make sure that it was working okay. Now that I have these 2 rows, I can work with that. Okay, so we can do pandas is a series, right? So it will have an index location of 1, which means the second row, minus index location of 0 is the first row. Okay, even before that, it just occurred to me that I need to sort by the year here. We don't want to take a chance. We want to be very clear that our original data frame is sorted in increasing order of years, so that 2013 should come before 2018. Now I'm going to do the difference. Let me store this as a population difference is this one, and then why don't I just return the population difference. Now let's run this. So if we run this, it will take for each country, it will take 2 rows and call this function, which will simply take the first row's value, subtract that from the second row's value, and then it will return that. So let's run that and see here it's already working. Something is going on, so we're happy, but it's not exactly what we wanted, right? It's calculating the population difference. But what I really want is, let me call it percentage change, is the population difference divided by the baseline, which is 0, by the population of 2013. Okay, now I can return the percentage change. There, that's much better. So 15%. Well, since it's percentage change, let me just multiply by 100. So I take the fractional change multiplied by 100. I can see that Afghanistan has had a 15% increase, whereas the West Bank and Gaza has had a 12% increase, and so on. Even the world is shown as one country here. I had not noticed that. The world population itself has gone up by 5.9%, but that's okay. We won't worry about that. Now let's make it a little better. We can do this as, let's calculate the rounded. There's too many decimal places, so it's difficult to read. So now much better. Okay. So we have gotten what we wanted, but we still don't know which countries had the highest change ever. So now that this is working, I can take my answers and I can sort them. I can sort them, but it's sorting them in ascending order, right? So Syria has had the highest population loss in the last 5 years. 13% of the country has left, right? Understandable, perhaps because of everything that is going on in Syria. So let me take sort, but for our purposes, we have to say ascending equal to false. If I run this now, why is it not running? There. For some reason it took longer, but finally we got our answer. Oman, what's going on with Oman? 28% increase. Okay, maybe I just want to see the top 10 countries. Okay, question 1 is finally solved. Oman, Maldives, Equatorial Guinea, Niger, Uganda, Bahrain, Qatar, something going on in the Middle East and in Africa. Angola, Congo, DRC has had a huge increase. Nauru, small country, so probably these are all countries that are showing a healthy, maybe even too much of a population increase. But at least we answered our Q1. Okay, now we can move on to question number 2.
For the second question, to answer which ones have stayed flat, here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the last 30 years of population for each country. So let's say I have 300 countries, 30 times 300. So I should have about 9,000 rows. I'm going to group by country. I have to do that. And for each group, I'm going to calculate its population standard deviation. Then I will sort by the population standard deviation from lowest to highest. And if the standard deviation is very low, I'm assuming that that means that the population has not changed much. At least that's my idea. I have not tried it yet. I'm going to go try it now. Let's go to Python actually and try this. Okay, that's the idea for question number 2.
Let's work now on question 2. We want the countries wherein the population has remained essentially unchanged for 30 years. We know that we need to work with this column, right? If you see all its unique values, they are each of the years, but the type is object, right? So it's a string. We want to make it into a number, so you can make it as type an int. If you do that, it becomes an integer. And now we can actually create a 0, 1, true, false Boolean mask. We can say that as it 2018, so let's go back until 1988. So you see, this is now a true false column. Let's call that a year condition, right? We've created a full array, a full series of true false. And then I can say that if I take my melted and I do year condition in there, I will get only for every year we will get 30 rows. Okay, from 1989 until 2018, which is exactly what we want. So now we are ready to group by. We want to group by the country name, and then we are interested in the population column. Okay, so we've created a grouped series, but we have to perform some summarizing operation. After you've taken a chunk of 30 for each country and looked at the population column, what do we want to do with it? We want to calculate maybe its standard deviation. So finally we got it. We are very close now. So we have all the standard deviation for Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, and so on. And now let's sort this, right? Now we can sort this. So yeah, there. Dominica, Greenland, and then let's look at the head. Let's say that we want to get only the 10 countries. So finally, these are the countries for which the population has remained essentially unchanged. Dominica, Greenland, St. Vincent, Tuvalu, Faroe Islands. Oh, okay. I see what is going on. Because these are all island countries or island nations with very small populations, I guess their population has not changed. Here is one way to fix it. Let me copy and paste this cell. Then I'm going to, maybe I want to filter by only, I want to consider only those countries where population is greater than. So let's do this. You can take melted and I can take the population and I can say, hey, is the population greater than, let's say, 1 million? Okay, so now let's call this high pop. All the high pop rows are stored here. Okay, so now not only do I want the year condition, I want it also to be and the high pop. That's all, one small change. And here finally we got the Slovenia, North Macedonia, Slovak Republic, Trinidad. These are all countries where the population have not changed at all. And now that we have this, we can even try changing it to 10 million. And then you can see Belarus, Sweden, Czech Republic. So that's how we would solve the question as to which countries have had their populations remain essentially unchanged. Now let's move on to question number 3.
For question number 3, to see which populations have come down, here is my idea. Again, I'm going to group by each country and I'm going to calculate the max ever population that country has had. And then I'm going to take its latest or 2018 population. I'm going to compare these two. If they are not the same, that means that the max was higher than the latest. Okay, and then I can sort it and print it. At least that's my idea for question number 3. Let's try it now.
For the third question, there are probably many ways to do this, but here is how I want to approach it. First, let's look at the data frame that we have. Okay, we have 15,000 rows and 3 columns. Let me show you again as a reminder. Here, right, the columns are country name, year, and population. Population is important, country name, everything is important. So we want to do a group by. We have to group it by country name. Okay, and then I'm going to take the population column. If we want to calculate the max, it will show only 1 row per country, right? You have only 265 rows. But here is a new command that we have probably not looked at before, or maybe new to some of you, transform. So we're going to transform the original melted data frame itself by adding a new column or create a series called, you watch this length, it is 264. Now when I run this transform, you notice that the length is equal to the melted data frame itself. So there is 1 row for each row in melted. So I can call this, I can create a new row now. Okay, the highest population in melted is grouped by the country name and then transform and add the max to it. Okay, so if I do this now, remember that melted only had 3 columns, but see now it has a 4th column. And what is it? It is a new one that we just added, right? We have a population as well as a highest population. So we have 2 columns that are of interest. So let's take melted now, and then let's say, because we are only interested in the final population, maybe I can say that where the year is exactly equal to 2018, right? So this could be my year condition. So I can now take melted and cut it with this condition. So keep only those rows which are 2018, and I have 264 rows. So I'm going to call this into my 2018 data frame. Okay, so I have a new data frame because I want to deal with small number of rows and columns. Much easier to deal with, 264 rows. Okay, so I'm going to take and then let's look at it. So we are interested in all those rows, all those countries where this number is not the same as this number. Here in Aruba it is the same, but sometimes it is not the same. Here, for example, Andorra has a different value for population and highest. So we can say I can create a new condition. Let me call that as unequal population rows, where df 2018 of population is not equal to highest population. So remember, unequal population row is simply a true false value, right? If I print it, you will just see a bunch of true false values. But I'm going to take my df 2018 and I'm only going to keep those rows. Here it is. These are all the countries for which the final population is different from the highest ever population. And we were only interested in the countries of these. If you want it only printed better, you just say dot values, and there you have it. So these are all the countries here, Kosovo, and you can see that Syria is showing up, Venezuela. These are all countries under some kind of a distress probably, or they're island nations where people are leaving. And so the population in 2018 is not its highest ever population. And that's how we solved question number 3.
So there you have it. I wanted you to experience a little bit of close to live coding. Hopefully this was useful. If you have, thank you for your time. And if you have any suggestions at all for how to improve this video, please let me know. I really am doing this so that others will learn. Thank you so much again. Bye.